Hello, and welcome to Stories from the View, a podcast from the Pleasant View Senior Center in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. On this podcast, we invite East Longmeadow residents to tell us stories about their lives and events. And today's guest is Tom Christensen. He is the town manager of East Longmeadow, and here is your host, Mary Jenowyn Kaplan.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. How are we doing?
I'm great, and I am so excited to hear the scoop. We got
The scoop, the lowdown.
The lowdown. We have a lot going on in this town, and it's a treat to get to hear it from the horse's mouth, from the source.
All right, I've been
from the
called
guy
worse.
in the hub, the center of what's happening. So we'll start with some of the nouns, the easy stuff.
Okay.
Our town hall has been around for a long time.
Yep.
And recently we acquired another building. Now, what is that? It's the Westfield Bank building.
Yep.
But now it's the East Longmeadow Annex, Town Hall B. What? How are you calling this?
We have names for it internally. Maybe I don't want to share. No, I'm kidding.
Maybe we'll have a contest.
The plan would be the eventual town hall, the plans of which are still sort of underway. Obviously, assessing finance and human resources were moved in there before we acquired the building.
So are they like on top? How many floors is that?
So it's 2 floors. The suite that we are in right now is approximately, on the lease it's 3,000 square feet, but it's 2,400 square feet. So there's the common areas all get sort of wrapped into the lease area. But the smaller suite across the hall from, I guess it's suite 207, has just become available. And so we're going to spread out a little more up on the second floor. Most of the building is still has the existing tenants in it. And as we sort of explained to them, as we were calling it a friendly taking, we're sort of allowing everyone to continue in their leases until they run out, and as they run out, we'll sort of move in. That plan is still ongoing. There's a lot of moving parts there. We want to figure out the difficulty with these things is we have an existing building, and we want to sort of move into it, but we don't want to move a bunch of times and do a bunch of renos, and so we have to plan this so that when something becomes available and we move people in or identify a spot that makes sense for the clerk, that we're not moving them later and paying for 2 renovations or something of that nature. So we have a schedule of those leases, obviously, and those dates in which those spaces will become available, and so we're setting that plan up accordingly, as well as backfilling spaces in town hall, and or future use of town hall. It's an interesting. I've been looking around at other communities because there are a lot of communities that are older than us, especially in corporation date, that had an old town hall and they got a new town hall, because this is how things go, right? Like you have an old high school and you build a new high school at some point or another. So they end up with a town hall and a memorial hall or something like that, where there's there's a million ideas for whatever that space looks like. Memorial hall would be some sort of community center or meeting house, or there's a bunch of options. The history of the town is sort of in that vision of town hall. Like when I drive down the hill to work in the morning, coming down Summers Road, and I look left, and like that's like every picture you've ever seen of East Long Meadow, right? The
Yes.
front of the town hall. So, with all these conversations have led a lot of different directions, and the most recent of which was with Tom Behan, the Historical Commission chair. And we were upstairs actually in DPW. They had some old documents, and we've been doing all this work archiving our all of our old files and all of our old plans to kind of get everything squared away. The Historical Commission's been working on that history room in the library, which is fantastic. I mean, they've done amazing work in there to sort of archive our history.
And that's open to the public?
Correct.
So if someone wanted to go and check it out and learn a little bit about our town or maybe their street long ago?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some sort of sign up. Katie's pretty protective of her library and the spaces in which.
But the Historical Commission folks are very knowledgeable.
Oh, man.
And so happy to share.
And so we've been finding all these little nuggets in the basement of Town Hall and upstairs at DPW. And so obviously I had worked in DPW previously. And so there was a renovation upstairs to add a ceiling, like a drop ceiling and a loft area. So there's like 2.5 floors in Town Hall. And in the front part of the building, there's that half a story is not there. The old architecture is still in the sky. I mean, in the roof. So I mean, these gorgeous beams from who knows when, right? I mean, the hand woodwork is amazing. So I think a lot of this stuff has to go in to our decision. Do we want to try to sort of maybe refinish it or rekindle what it was? There was that was the sort of dance hall stage space up there eons ago, whenever. So when Tom subsequently after that conversation, which was a month ago or so, found some pictures of that stage up there. So, you can kind of get a feel for that big, long staircase that is employees only now that goes up to DPW. I mean, that's how you got up to the main, right? Probably some offices were on the first floor, and that second floor was this enormous, 15-foot, 18-foot ceiling with these huge wood joists. So, again, as we grow and move forward with the town, I think it's important to think about where we've been and try to capture some of that history as we go.
So right now, in I'm going to call it the Westfield Bank building because
Sure.
we won't go with the other ones, but finance is there,
Yep.
and that's it.
Finance, assessing,
Oh,
and human resources. Now, assessing was that's been the most difficult because it's a forward-facing department, and having to go there and then maybe back to the collector's office.
oh,
You know
so
what I mean?
people
That's
go to
been the
the
most difficult
assessors,
for
and
the
then they might
public.
have to zip back to
Right.
town hall.
It makes sense in the fact that finance is with assessing because they do a lot of work with the budget and our finances and things like that. So again, when you're trying to fit people into a finite space, there's pros and cons, and we went through many iterations of what that layout was going to look like and which departments were going to go over there. This is how we ended up. Obviously, when we do move, assessing will, maybe they stay in their space, but when everybody's there, at least we're all in the same building. And that's sort of been a little bit difficult for the staff. We have our forms of communication. It's 2025. There's no, we don't have any communication breakdown because of email and texts and phones. And I mean,
Right.
we can communicate. It's just, sort of the camaraderie of being with your coworkers is sort of, it's been chunked a little bit. Not that anybody, unless you have a problem, say you're not visiting with HR very much, right? So
Right.
HR and finance made sense. There's not a lot of public interaction with those two departments. But the assessing one has been a challenge that we've been working through. But I think once we migrate over, and we get that plan to where it makes sense where everybody is, and this way, you know, if you go to assessing and you have to go to treasurer collector, it's just right down the hallway, or, you know, 15 feet away, like it was for many years.
So I'm hearing you say when everyone's there.
Yep.
So theoretically, all the heads that are now at town hall will eventually, years from now, or all be almost next door to us here.
Yeah, so I mean that's the conversation we're having now. Obviously, we didn't acquire the building to not use it, to
Correct.
not utilize it as town hall. So that part of the plan is going to still has some tweaking. Most of as the spaces become available, it'll be easier for us to move almost everybody out. But we have other initiatives as well, and you know, recreation is stuck in this council on aging building. They don't really have what you'd call an office space. I mean, the director of the department
Doesn't
is in
even have a
cage in
door.
the corner. Doesn't even have a door. You know, and they make it work, and you know they're you know very productive.
And they're great neighbors to the
Right.
senior center.
Of course,
good missions.
They deserve a space to do work in. You know, and some privacy if they need it.
And probably some storage. They
and
have a lot of stuff.
They have a lot of stuff. And actually, when I first became deputy, I had walked around and met all the department. Well, I knew all the department heads already, but specific to the manager's office, you know, what are your needs? What are your the most popular answer was not necessarily space, was storage space. So we have enough room for people, but we don't have any room for stuff. And again, that it's sort of a luxury for public sector to have space for stuff. Like it's hard to get people in the budget and to be able to function. You don't really worry about having a space for all that stuff to be. That's a secondary thought, especially when you've sort of busted at the seams in your existing building. And that storage space has to go away because we got to put somebody's desk in that closet, you know? And of course, I'm exaggerating for effect. We don't put anybody in closets. I take that back. But, you know, there's a lot of moving parts. But the other good part about moving rec out of there was providing more space for COA, who let's face it, this building is crowded as well. So there's a lot of moving parts in that plan, and the first big space doesn't really become available until 2027. So we have some time to drill down on these things, could sort of plan for if we have any future expansion in any of these departments in terms of space and people. So there's a lot of moving parts, and we're coordinating that with our departments that we assume will move over. I think it was a funny conversation and ironic. I had a conversation with Jeannie, our town clerk, and she was talking about how during COVID, I think Munson was utilizing their drive-up window. You know, there was social distancing and this, that, and the other thing, and so we were talking about how interesting that would be to have. You know, they have the drop boxes and all that stuff at the existing town hall, but could we utilize the drive-through for something, anything? So it'll be interesting. The building is wonderful. There'll be plenty of space for us to live and grow. But it's an exciting development, and it's, you know, a couple decades in the making. We've been looking for, you know, space studies and all this stuff for quite some time, and to be planning to fill a new building at this point is very exciting, and the financial aspect of it, you know, when you look at the cost of building a building now, i.e. the high school, up around, you know, 8, 9. Now I think the last numbers I saw for one of the last schools was up around $1,000 a square foot. That's 26,000 square feet. So, I mean, That's a significant cost savings for us at the price that we acquired it for. So we're exciting. I think it was the right move for the future of the town.
So there may be some more tweaks this year, but as you say, the big stuff probably won't happen till 2027. But there could be some movement as perhaps some smaller spaces.
Well, the movement that happens is the calendar flipping. So we'll be there before we know it. I mean, we all know we think we have enough time to plan. So I'm glad that we do have enough time to plan, but we can't.
But we
delay.
won't worry about
Yeah.
next week my driving to town hall and it's
Correct. Yeah.
full of soccer balls.
There's-
I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And notwithstanding a tenant trying to break their lease, or I mean, there's a million
Yeah,
things
people-
that people make decisions all the time, and of course, we'll pivot if something that we don't foresee happens. I mean, this is municipal government. That's pretty much an hourly occurrence. But yeah, it's nice that we have the space and time to plan for it, and I'm confident that we're going to do it right.
Great. So we won't hold our breath for the big move, but we
Correct.
will be alert. To
60
see what's
Center
happening.
Square, you can
We can still go to
keep
town
sending
hall.
your
to-
checks to 60 Center Square. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we know the way. So while we're talking about building, and you did mention the H word, the high school.
Yep.
How's it going?
Oh my goodness, excellent. Every time if you drive by the high school on Maple and you look left over the existing high school, there's just every hour you drive by, there's more steel in the air. They are cruising. Obviously, Fontaine, the design team, Jones Whitsitt, SMMA, Skanska is our OPM.
I don't.
They are all.
You got to watch your language here. This is a family-friendly program. I don't know all these acronyms. The people
SMMA,
involved in the
yes.
building.
Oh, yes. They're on the design team as well. They've been extremely professional as advertised. The project has had very little blip. The initial work in the fall was unencumbered by 45 days of no rain, which was, when you're starting a project to deal with a dry site and dry days for that many in a row, they really got a lot done. When you're planning a project of this size and this schedule and a scope, you have to assume that there's some down days with weather or whatever, but they have not missed a beat. They've been incredible, and like I said, every time you look, you can't believe the progress. So all the tradesmen and women, everybody on that site has been phenomenal, and we're lucky to have all of them, and the project is cruising. So and I guess I'll throw the cliche on time, on budget, which is true, but it's exciting to see a project like that with that many moving pieces performing so well.
That now remind us, it continues through the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then in fall of 2025,
No, so the 26.
26.
Fall
okay.
of 26, we are scheduled to have that school year in the new building.
Okay, so we have another year
Yep.
after this in the high school, which is
Yep.
fine. It's the building's happening.
Yep.
And then fall of 26.
Yep, and then subsequent to that will be the demolition of the existing school and, the final site work, fields and whatever grading and amenities are in the footprint of the existing building will have to be built. So, we're, like I said, I expect that to happen tomorrow because this is how fast time seems to be moving these days. But they're doing great. Everything's been great. like I said, everybody involved in the process, the school building committee, everybody's been, it's just been a great process so far. So
That's great
I know,
news.
yeah, and we also got some encouraging information a few months ago. We retained our AA plus bond rating, and the bonds came back from the school we were estimating 5%, and they ended up somewhere around 4%, which was going to be, I think Kim calculated, about $22 million in savings over the life of the bond. So
It's a lot of zeros.
it's a
I like
lot
that.
of money. So again, it's a testament to our town's policies and our everything we do to make the community what it is. A lot of work goes into that by a lot of people, elected officials, staff. They basically, you open this envelope and you say, do I want to, how much do I want to lend this money to East Long Meadow? And those numbers came all the way down to a point where we could realize those savings. So there's too many people to thank, but it's just sort of a testament of the work ethic here for the people that work here, the elected officials. A lot goes into realizing those type of savings, and so we were extremely pleased when that happened.
We can't name them all, but we know who you are, and you know who you are, and please know that we appreciate that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot that goes into a functioning municipality. Our staff is just phenomenal in all facets. I'm sort of humbled and privileged to come to work every day, and as a resident, it makes me feel secure in where I live. So kudos.
Now, I don't want to be the harbinger of evil or the bringer of a dark
Oh,
cloud
boy.
over our happy podcast studio here, but we got some other buildings in town. So how are the rest of our schools doing?
Good.
They hanging in there?
Yep. We have our capital plan, obviously, and that is extended out, 5 years officially, but most of those plans are extended. Bruce Fenney at DPW, they're in charge of all the building maintenance, and he's in typical Bruce fashion overachieves, and I think we have some sort of 20-year plan out there where
Well, good. Plans
yeah,
are good.
yeah, and then
I like them.
we've been talking a lot about this lately because there's these projects that fall outside of the capital plan, which we still sort of list in this list of projects that we can't do inside the operating budget. I.e., voting for a new high school. Obviously, that takes us over our 2.5%. So we have to vote. The community has to vote to do things like that. So, we have these other projects that we look for other ways to fund outside of the operating budget in any given year. For instance, one of the bigger projects this year will be Maple Shade's roof, which is almost $3 million, which the school department applied for MSBA assistance, and we received again.
Excellent.
Yep. So that'll be somewhere in the 56% reimbursement so that's going to save us, 1.6, 1.7, something like that, the MSBA will cover. But yeah, we have a police station that is old. That was one that I would like to identify that probably needs some work next. And so, I had, as these conversations are happening and we're talking about moves and what do you do when you have a police station that's full and, for instance, say you decide to renovate it. Well, where does everybody go? Is that a oh, hey, a bunch of this space is opening up in town hall. Can we stick them there for 8-10 months while we're renovating another building? Or again, all
Yeah.
these ideas are
The Little Red Schoolhouse is too small, right? It won't fit there.
probably.
Yeah.
But again, we have to think of all these things because we don't just have a pile of money laying around where we're going to say, or land where we can say, oh, guys, hang tight. We'll be done with this $12 million police station any minute now, and then you can move in. So we have a lot of things on our plate from that point of view. The council has actually asked me to sort of put these things in order for them, specifically the buildings, to see kind of where we're going to have our big expenditures. So, we came out of our Birchland was done in 2000, so we came out of that that bond right into the high school bond. So that was only a 20-year note. This one's 30. In all likelihood, there will be the need for another large expenditure like that within the life of this 30-year bond. That's not to say it's definitely going to happen, and obviously the community would have to vote for it to happen anyway. But when you're timing these things out, there's not enough years, and if you go out 20 years, now all these buildings are 20 years older, and we're still in that window of this 30-year note. So again, these are all plans that are in constant motion. I don't know that anybody expected the new town hall to happen when it did. Obviously, we're happy that it did, and we're happy that it worked out. But you got to kind of think outside the box and keep all these things on the table, right? There's no point in having a conversation if you're not going to look at every single possibility. So for the most part, the buildings are all in good shape, all being updated with any updates that need to happen, preventative maintenance. Again, DPW does a nice job, both with our buildings and our fleet, of having a good PM plan. So I think we're for right now we have this the police station thing is something that is probably going to have to get addressed in the near future, and then after that it'll be updating our existing building assets with capital expenditures, roofs, and things of that nature.
Well, we got to shift gears here, and let's talk about some future planning. Future planning, that's redundant, my apologies. The words...
Well, the future's coming, whether you plan
future's
for it or
coming.
not.
We're here.
So I guess it's not all that redundant.
Exactly. The buzz about Center District.
Yep.
Without getting into the weeds, where is it right now? And
Well-
what's, for those maybe who have been hibernating and haven't heard of it, tell us
Sure.
what
Sure,
your
absolutely.
elevator speech about what it is.
All right. So the Centertown District conversation started for a lot of reasons, really. Obviously, our former planning director sent away for a grant to sort of look at this Centertown District, which is a industry standard kind of thing. And it was identified in the master plan that was published in 2021. And so the grant was to specifically to figure out the feasibility of a 40R Centertown District, which 40R is this vehicle for state law. As we're looking at the grant and its parameters and the health of the community, it as I'm looking at our needs, especially in that area of the town, interestingly enough, a lot of the our deficiencies line up. One, I guess this is one that we're going to talk about a lot this year through the budget process and into the future is revenue. So our town has sort of stagnantly been growing by a similar amount every year. We have our single-family house subdivision here and maybe a new business building there. And this new growth is, I guess I'll back up and say the new growth is the growth of the property taxable property in town. Okay, so you had your taxable property this year. How much did you add? And then you can add that to the 2.5 that were allowed by law to tax the community. 2.5%, I mean. So the expense curve is, we've been growing the budget by plus or minus 4 or 5% for the last 4 or 5 years. And we're only allowed to increase the taxes 2.5% by law plus this new growth. So this new growth thing is really what not only sort of grows the community, but helps you offset your costs. And everybody knows costs have been going through the roof. We're the same as an individual. There's just a lot of us, right? It's just a larger scale.
So the purpose is not only to shape how our community grows, but also to generate revenue so our town can function
Well,
efficiently.
right, and those would be directly proportional. Obviously, if your community grows, which it should, communities cannot stay stagnant. Even if they could, those of us that exist in this space now would just have to keep paying for that rising cost, right? If you don't,
Right.
if you don't have more people splitting the pot, we all just have to pay. So we're trying to smartly, proactively design some sort of zone that will facilitate this growth, and facilitate development. We have a lot of properties down in that area that have sort of been lying dormant, and the conclusion can be drawn that there's just not enough return on investment for a developer to want to do something at Ramitos. I mean, there's no reason a property in the center of a sort of a town like East Long Meadow, which is desirable, that property just sits there unless nobody can make heads or tails of what they're allowed to do there. Or they kind of have an idea what they want to do there, but there's not really a return on investment there. So we have to start incentivizing this property downtown for development. The second piece that we hear a lot about, especially with our younger and older populations, is affordable housing, and that nobody can afford to exist anymore. Prices are obviously through the roof, and so there was a component to this about affordable housing, and I had a lot of these conversations with people, especially after the high school vote passed, because that was going to increase the taxes dramatically, and that's just one more cost per month per year that people were going to have to come up with.
And that hasn't hit our tax bills yet.
No.
So, okay,
Not in-
that's good. So
not-
how is
not
it
in any
playing out
impactful
with
way.
us now? We've talked about drawing a district.
Yep. So the district has been drawn. Sorry, just the last
No, okay,
piece of
one
that
more
was
piece.
to change the industrial zoning downtown, which used to be appropriate, right, when we had a rail and our town was different. But it's just industrial is not appropriate in the center of town anymore. We carved out a whole corner of town for industrial garden park, and that's where we've identified where we want those types of industries. So this 40R is just a portion of this. The Centertown District is really really the initiative that we have to end up with, meaning we end up with a mixed-use district downtown that provides some housing. If there's an affordable component, that's up to sort of the lawmakers, the enactors, and to get rid of this industrial piece downtown. So the zoning has been drawn. It almost exactly mimics the business, commercial, and industrial districts that are already there. So we haven't done anything except for, those uses will most likely, except for the industrial uses, all be allowed, everything that was allowed. We're not taking anybody's property for that was residential. I think there's maybe 3 residential parcels that were in this zone, but I don't think are even being used for residential right now. And so we're basically allowing those business and commercial uses to exist while providing a residential component. So when you say get into the weeds, immediately I thought to myself, well, we don't even have any weeds yet.
Oh, maybe that's good. Weeding is difficult. Yeah.
No. So there's been a lot of discussion, both in our office and in the public forums. Dare I say, on the social media, that this, that, and the other thing. The fact is, we haven't written a single part of this bylaw yet. We've identified the parcels again where we want the zone. We haven't decided on any regulation yet. We don't know the uses. We don't know, setbacks, density, even if there's an affordable housing, 40R. We don't know any of this stuff yet. We've just identified a portion of the town where we think we can grow, and it will help sort of with this new growth thing, with this mixed use thing, with this rezoning of that area and providing some housing, and just sort of proactively grow the town, which we need to do, the way we want. And so that's why we're writing the bylaw. The speculation that this 40R state involvement is anything that is detrimental or we can't get out of, or 40R is simply a check mark given to our bylaw that we write by the state. That's it. Either we're eligible for 40R or we're not. And that's really how I want to continue to look at it. And I said that at the first meeting. If this isn't right for the town of East Long Meadow, we're not going to do it. And it's really even out of my hands, but I feel that way. Because if something gets to our planning board and or elected officials that doesn't work for East Long Meadow, no. We don't want to do that. Nobody that lives here or works here wants to do anything that the public doesn't want to do, right? We've identified some issues here, and that is this growth pattern that we've been on probably since East Long Meadow's been in existence, where we're a suburb bedroom single family house community. That's why I moved back. Lovely, wonderful, best town ever, right? This is where I grew up. This is where I work. This is where I live now. This is where my kids live now. I mean, this is a wonderful community. We just have to start thinking a little differently. What the old formula, for many reasons, is not working to our best benefit anymore. We can't continue to grow at the slow rate that we're growing when our expenses are doubling that rate. It's just a math problem. It's not going to work. That line will intersect, and when it does, everything after that will be cutting costs. And then those costs inevitably become cutting services. Yeah. And I don't want to do that. We provide so many services in this town well, and I don't want to get to a point where we're stuck and we have to cut. Because like I said, that 2.5, that's the law. That's the best we can do. So when that other number is that much higher than what we're lawfully allowed to do, we won't have a choice. So we need to get there as a community. Are there things that like before the mics were on, we said that we're going to agree on? Sure. Are there things we're not going to? Obviously. But we have to accept the fact that we have to, together, change a little bit. And what better way to do it than writing our own laws and doing it the way we want to do it? And that's sort of the gist of the Centertown District as I see it. It's needed. Mm-hmm. We don't have to do all the things, but we got to do something. And we have to allow developers the opportunity to come in and do what we want them to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So many projects. and so many things happening. I have this vision of the guy at the circus with the spinning plates. You've got a lot in the
Sounds
air.
like my brain, yeah.
A lot going on. I know this time of year is budget time, and it's a huge process. But maybe you could just give us the Reader's Digest version of where the process is right now.
Sure.
And if there's anything in there that is different, is interesting, people might want to know about, or some of the challenges, because I know there were challenges.
Yeah, no, and it kind of goes sort of good segue, because I mean, this is sort of what we're talking about with the district and the new growth and things of that nature. Yeah, the budget process, as you said, is rigorous. Where we when we went through the process last year, it was our finance director Kim Collins, myself, and our deputy town manager Rebecca Lisi. It was our first budget altogether, and it was my first budget. So we went through every line item in every budget ad nauseum. But it gave us a chance to get to know every single penny that we spent. And I thought that was important. I sort of identified that as one of my personal goals, to dig that deep.
What's the bottom line? What's the total town budget?
So, not set. Last year,
last
the
year.
operating budget, the general fund operating budget was about $72 million.
That's a lot of pennies.
It's a lot of pennies. But again, we're sort of changing the way things happen. In the past, there was sort of a mantra in the public sector, make sure you spend your budget or else you won't get it next year. Which maybe is true in some communities, or maybe it's true in some industries. We sort of worked hard to sort of break down those walls and those old thoughts. We don't budget for anything on a, what if this happens, or on a what if scenario, right? You budget what you budget, and we base it on what you've spent in the last 3 years, what those trends look like. So I think we trimmed almost $1 million off. Sorry. So the process is that all the department heads submit their budget to the manager, and we call that level 1, which is where we're at right now. And then we met with all the department heads to see where we can cut costs, check those actual costs based on budget numbers. And if they get to know what the department head, what their plan looks like, what do they see? Do they need more staff? Do they have too much staff? That never happens. What are they looking at for expenditures? What could possibly come up in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years? Like, what are we looking at here? So that's sort of where we're at right now. We haven't met with everybody yet. We got everybody's numbers in. I always say, it's a little nerve-wracking right now. And I'm a person who doesn't like to get my blood pressure up for no reason. And there's really no reason in February. We have a very early budget from the state. We're estimating our large costs, health insurance, retirement. Everything's sort of an estimate right now. That doesn't mean that we can't start our planning. And I don't really like to base where the budget's going to end up on that final number, like against each other, like putting all the parts against each other. What do you need? Like what's your budget? And then see where we land. Because if we go to the end point first and work back, we're always going to tax as much as possible. And that's no way to do anything. We don't want to just, okay, we can tax this much, let's do it. Mm-hmm. Where are we at? What do you need? Do we actually need to budget this much? Do we need to spend this much on this? Is there another option? So when you start going through the budget line by line, which we plan on doing again, with every department head, you get all these other points of view, and almost nothing is missed. And then April 1st comes, and that budget that we end up on gets submitted to the council, and we go through it all over again. So the budget process is, I'm struggling for a phrase, but it's like bulletproof, right? Like we have so many iterations and eyes on the process that when the final budget comes out, that's legitimately the best we could have done to keep up with our services the way that we had them last year.
Do we still have a financial oversight committee?
Well, that is out of my milieu. That all those decisions would get made after the manager submits the budget to the council. My understanding is that is a standing committee of the town council.
So
but
it's
I don't
a
know what
whole
their
different group of people, or it has been, we're hoping it continues, that also looks.
So last year and in years past, the council received the budget and recommended to the Finance Oversight Committee, which is a subcommittee of the town council, to, yes, basically go through that whole budget again. Usually I'm there with Kim to answer any questions. The logic makes sense to most of us operationally, but from an outside person or somebody in an industry that doesn't quite do it like the public sector,
There's going to be questions.
there's a ton of questions. There is a tremendous amount of respect for our finance department. There is nothing like municipal finance. You can be a captain of industry and look at municipal finance and be like, why, what is going on, right? Oh, because it's the law, right? Like,
Yeah.
right, everything
You have
has to be done.
regulations
Yeah,
and
everything has to be
such
done a
that
certain
are
way.
unique.
Very
in your
unique.
own unique way.
That's how we live, uniquely. So, yeah, the it's keeping me up at nights already. But the blood pressure's down. I'm laying down when I'm thinking about it. So, again, it's a long process, but it's
It's $72 million. That's
and this
a
year
lot. We're glad you're looking at it. Thank you.
we're going to be into 75 or what's that? You know what I mean? So we're just, and again, that rate is our level service, right? This is how we start the budget process. Tell me what it's going to cost you to give the people what you gave them last year, this year. And those are contractual increases with salaries and, service contracts and whatever, right? We can't, we're at that point where we can't just go. We can only just keep giving what we're given until something changes with our finances in terms of how we're growing, what kind of money's coming in. There's some options out there for additional revenue, but most of them are from the governor's Municipal Empowerment Act that she proposed again that has us, it's all local option stuff that has us taxing the same people we always tax.
Right. But if it's state dollars or if it's local dollars, it's still my pockets.
That is
This
also
doesn't come from Mars.
That is true. But from a local standpoint, from my chair,
Right.
I don't want to just keep increasing that number that the same people are paying for the same thing.
And we need pieces of the state pie and the federal pie, too,
That's
to help
correct.
our town.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
what have we missed, Tom?
Oh, geez. Well, actually, we were just the annual report's coming out. All the departments are handing in their sort of summaries of 2024 from their department's perspective. And I was thinking on my way over here, for the first time, I can't even certainly since I've been manager, we have a full staff.
Let us this moment freeze and be filled with joy.
Yeah, we welcomed we welcomed Will Cullinane, as our new building commissioner. And he was the last slot that was open. We hired an HR director a few months ago, Audra Staples. There's always been or multiple department heads open. I can't even remember the last time. So we're excited. It's that whole thing with this town hall piece. Is this we're trying to build this team and this camaraderie, and to now have a full boat. We're excited about what everybody's bringing to the table and where we can bring the town moving forward. It's very exciting.
Oh, we're ending on a high note. And I
Always.
thought I was just ask
Always.
about your kids and hear good stuff about them. But no, this is great.
Yeah.
Tom, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me back. I guess I wasn't too bad the first time, and hopefully there'll be a third.
And now I'm exhausted because
I
there's so much
appreciate-
going on.
No, I appreciate your time. I think a lot of people have a lot of questions, and that's something we're working on, is trying to get that information and those updates out to everybody. So I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for the time.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Tom, for being here today. We do appreciate you being here. That wraps up another episode of Stories from the View. We'd like to thank Tom Christensen, our town manager here in East Longmeadow. The Stories from the View podcast is available at the LCAT 01028 channel on YouTube, and it's also on Spotify. If you have a story that you'd like to share on the program, contact Pleasant View Senior Center Director Aaron Kobler by stopping by the Pleasant View Senior Center or by calling Aaron at 413-525-5436, extension 1401, or you can send Aaron an email, aaron.kobler@eastlongmeadowma.gov. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Stories from the View.